Welcome back to the Beyond the Dojo podcast. I'm Lauren.
I'm Jeremiah.
And we've had quite the eventful few weeks, so we haven't been recording any podcasts.
Yep.
Jeremiah's been studying for his massage therapy licensure.
Yeah, the MBLEX for the national test. Taking on Wednesday. So, yeah, me.
Go, Jeremiah. Very excited.
Yeah. This is the sound of excitement right now.
Literally, like, every single client that I have is like, can I be first in line? So I'm like, you're going to have to fight off like 20 other people at this point, but sure.
So everybody knows that saying, be careful what you ask for.
All the ladies love him. Right.
That doesn't sound like a sound business plan. All right. So what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to talk about the other eventful thing that just happened. So,
yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I totally forgot. It's like, yeah. So, actually, I'll preface this by talking about what happened to me 5.5 years ago, and then I'll talk about what happened a couple weeks ago. So,
yeah, air it out, girl.
Let's do it. Let's air out the dirty laundry. I'm in therapy now, so it's fine. Shut up. My previous relationship, the guy I was engaged to was fairly emotionally abusive and lots of threats of physical abuse, which is really weird that I would have stayed in the relationship so long knowing like that physical abuse is not okay, but for some reason the threat of it like wasn't enough to keep me away. Anyway, crazy how that works. Maybe martial arts actually like screwed me up with that because I'm like, you're not gonna do anything, you're a punk. And then he did hit me, so didn't go so well. But it was really strange because the way that relationship ended was he did strike me, and then the next day, he threatened to do so again. And then the weirdest thing happened. I'll preface this also by saying that he was diagnosed like bipolar depressive, and he would have those fits of like mania and almost like he didn't know, like he knew who I was, but it was just like otherworldly, like nobody was home. So that stuff was pretty scary when you're 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. But I was actually 22 at the time. But anyway, one of the last interactions that we had was he had been like rash, like broke his phone, threatened to hit me again, like acted kind of crazy, and then said he was going to leave where we were. And then he actually lived in the same neighborhood as I lived with my parents at the time. He lived the next road over and went to leave and was at the fence and then was like, no, I'm not leaving. And then turned around and basically threatened to fight me. Not hit me like abusively, like he wanted to actually spar me in the backyard, which sounds really, really funny. But at the time it was not funny. So, we've talked about before that the dojo that I came up in, my generation didn't get a lot of sparring. We had a lot of one-step stuff, but we really didn't get into like continuously keeping good distance and like how to react to somebody else if you didn't know what was coming. We just didn't get enough practice with that. And I'm not saying that to knock on our instructor, but that's just where we were. We got very, very soft and watered down and very Americanized in our approach, which kind of sucked. So I was not very confident in my sparring ability. And so this person is threatening to try to fight me. The best thing that happened though was I kept good distance. So there was never a swing that occurred. I never had to, we never actually physically touched the whole time. Huh? Right, yeah. I mean, people could have basically been chanting the whole time. Nothing happened. Yeah.
Sorry.
So anyway, that was basically what that was, and then he just kind of all of a sudden snapped out of it, stopped, and then left and went and did some other crazy stuff. So there was that. that was that. So then 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago yesterday, because today's actually Valentine's Day. Happy late Valentine's Day. 2 weeks ago yesterday. I have a client, and I don't want to give too many details away because it's kind of personal, but I have a client who I know has been in a bad relationship for a while, and I've been a little concerned that maybe something would happen at our facility, and by the grace of God, I sort of, and also by some crazy fluke, we were there on a Saturday. And
we had a new storage shed we were putting up. We were proud little parents of the shed here. We're
like putting some stuff together in the back, and crazy happened. I mean, it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so Jeremiah had to go home to go grab a tool, and I was out there like finalizing some stuff, and I heard a man yelling, and I look out from where I'm working, and I see the husband of my client screaming really crazy stuff at her, like screaming with his whole body, like he was not right. And I was really scared. So I grabbed my phone, called Jeremiah, and I said, hey, you need to come back here. I think he's going to hurt her. And I think you asked if he had touched her or anything. And I was like, no, he didn't. He hasn't touched her yet, but I think he's going to. So we've said before, our dojo is actually a renovated vet clinic. So behind our dojo is actually a dog kennel, a big one. Yeah. So we store a lot of stuff back in the dog kennel.
Well, it's fenced in, so it's safe.
Right. So I walked out of the dog kennel, past our back porch, and then around the outside of the kennel where the bushes are. And I didn't hear any more screaming, so I almost didn't go. And I was off the phone with Jeremiah at that point. And when I walked around the corner from around the bushes, there I saw the man with his wife underneath him, under a truck, with her in front of a tire. He was strangling her. He was crushing her throat. And he was so close to her that I couldn't even see her body. And at some point, from me clicking off the phone and seeing that, I took off running. I sprinted toward them. And I was like, no. Like in my head, like this can't be happening. And when I got close to them, it was crazy because I thought that I misinterpreted what was happening because he was so close to her. I was like, is he kissing her? But anyway, I tackled him off of her. I shoved him. I didn't fall with him, but I shoved him. I started screaming at him. He kind of looked confused, like, why was I there? Stood up, got kind of angry. I shoved him in the chest and I told him to leave. So she got up. I was shaking, obviously, like very very upset.
Yeah, when Lauren was on the phone with me, you could hear the adrenaline drop in your voice.
Dude, I was terrified.
Yeah, dude, the fluctuation of your voice was just uncontrollable. It was crazy.
Right. So, I checked on her, and it was crazy because after I shoved him in the chest, he walked to his truck across the parking lot. This is actually like a field. It's not really like a paved lot. Like he was going to leave, got to his truck and said, no, I'm not leaving. Came back and rushed me, and I guess he didn't really like flare his arms like he was going to hit me or grab me or anything, but he came at me and I was scared, so I shoved him in the chest again and I started screaming at him, and then he came at me a second time, so I shoved him again. At that point, literally went through my mind, oh no, I'm too close. So I started backing up. So then he's I say rushing in quotes, but he was walking really fast and he just looked like nobody was home. I mean, it was scary stuff. Like if you've been around people who are mentally ill, this is the second encounter, obviously, I've had with somebody like this. Nobody was home. So he was coming at me. I shoved him, I think, a third time. And then I was like, bump this. And I kicked him. I thought I was going to hit him in the gut because I wanted to double him over. But then I missed, and I actually hit him where his femur meets his hip. So I knocked him back pretty good.
I would say it's a better target.
Right, and that's very painful if you get hit there. So he must have really been like mentally hot. Yeah, because like he just got really mad. It didn't stop him. So he started coming at me more. So I backed up faster. We're like halfway across the parking lot at this point. I think I shoved him a fourth or fifth time in the chest. And at that point, I was like, all right, we're halfway across this parking lot. He's not going to stop. Nobody is coming. Jeremiah is still far away. So I had to figure out what I'm going to do in order to hold him off until Jeremiah gets here. So I didn't want to continue to waste energy pushing him. Oh, by the way, right before that, he actually grabbed me. When I pushed him, he actually grabbed my arm, and I snatched it out really fast. And my thought was, that was kind of weird. Why couldn't he hold my arm? So anyway, so by the time we're halfway across this field, this is going through my mind. I'm like, all right, a couple things can happen. The problem is that this guy is probably about 6 foot 6'1", which is about Jeremiah's size. He's also about Jeremiah's width. Not built like him, but he was that size. So keep in mind that I'm used to training against guys like about Jeremiah's size, so I'm keeping my distance, trying to be safe. At this point, I was like, all right, maybe I can kick him in the knees or something and then go for the head or try to go around.
Yeah.
Luckily, in an adjacent parking lot, there were some ladies that saw what was happening. They didn't see him attack his wife, but they saw him attack me, and they're freaking out, screaming at him, telling him to leave me alone. Right. I guess that was enough of a distraction. He went to his truck, And long story short, he left. I don't want to go into any more detail than that, but basically he left at that point. So we were safe, and we're still safe, which is great. But anyway, what I wanted to actually talk about with that was a couple of things. The first, just to kind of throw it out there, is maybe like, the common conversation in karate is that what we do as karateka is not the same as self-defense.
Well, there's elements of that, I would say.
Right.
The elements of like the way we practice our waza, our training, our technique against the air, against these predetermined drills.
Right.
Definitely not a viable way to train for self-defense. Self-defense should be trained in a realistic atmosphere. Although I'm not a great fan of Krav Maga, they understand that very clearly, and the way they approach things is to the extreme.
Right.
But at the same time, it is directly applicable.
Right.
But I will say this: karate changes your spirit. It changes your attitude. It changes your perspective.
Right.
And it gives you confidence when you don't know you have it.
Right. Absolutely. And that's, I think, more than anything for me, it made me spring into action where I would have thought I would have frozen. Like, I literally thought, I don't know when I started sprinting.
Right.
I thought I was just standing there until I was halfway there. And also I dropped my phone. I didn't know when I did that. I found it later. But apparently I just took off. So that to me is actually very surprising that was built up enough in me. Now, granted, we've been exposed to violence so much, and I was like, oh, hell no. You're not killing her here.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, one of the other things that karate instills besides just like a fighting spirit is also like some practical skills like distancing.
Oh, yeah.
So
distance and timing.
Right. Well, even if your timing is terrible, in the two situations I just described, my ex and then this guy, where they were very similar in nature, everything was about distancing. Like, besides the actual tackling of the guy, everything was about keeping good distance.
I'd have to disagree with you with talking to you about the situation and really thinking about it. Your timing was effective because you were aware enough to know that you were too close, which is a distance thing. But the awareness is part of the timing. Right. Like realizing almost immediately, whoa, and then getting out. That's a timing thing. Right. So I think your timing, that's the thing about karate. It's like, the gifts it gives you are so intangible. Sure. Like you can't see it. You can't literally grab a hold of it. It's just these ideas. Yeah. But you don't really see them until you are in that situation. Right. So I would say that your timing was excellent. Your distance was good. Right.
So I think that the advantage that I had in those two situations versus someone who had like maybe only trained self-defense is that we always talk smack about, in karate we practice too much distance. But literally that is probably what saved my butt those two times, was keeping good distance and being very aware of my bubble and knowing when those people were coming too close to me. Yeah, absolutely. And being able to keep that space. Like, I wasn't physically struck either time. No. I was actually, granted the second guy tried to grab me, but in both of those cases, the only thing that was damaged was my psyche. Like physically I was okay. So whereas someone who had trained only in self-defense, they may have not felt like they needed to keep as much distance. So and you have to think too that like people who are not trained fighters, which neither of these guys were trained fighters, and I do want to talk some more about that, neither of these guys were trained fighters, so they don't know how to fight somebody from a distance. Like, I kicked that guy. Like, and we tell people in self-defense, don't do that. But I was literally like, no, you're not coming any closer. It wasn't like a normal front kick, by the way. It was actually like a kick only to the front. I don't know if I mentioned that to you.
It's a thrust.
Heel
thrust.
Yeah. Right. Well, no, it was with the ball on my foot. But I actually thrust my leg forward. But
I would mention the footwork because you never fell down, you never tripped over yourself, and that's something that most people would do.
That's true, yeah.
So that's what I'm keep on going back to, this like intangible things. Right. Is like your footwork was efficient, your timing was efficient, your distance was good. You were able to kick the guy and get out. That's a timing thing. Right. So
the other thing is the awareness. I was aware enough not to like wrap up the guy like a football tackle and take him down. I was like, nah, I need to actually knock him off. So I literally like stiff armed him. Right. I think. I can't remember. I remember most of the details very clearly, which is really strange because most of the time you think that you wouldn't. But most of the details I remember. But that, I'm pretty sure I like stiff armed him and knocked him down. Yeah. But, I guess that was the main two with karate skills is like, one of the things that we have talked about with our self-defense students, but we actually haven't trained as much in a karate scenario, is what it is like to be pursued, rather than, like, we always try to say, don't back up. Don't back up, and we're taught that, right? But in both of these cases, that's what happened to me. Well, especially in the second case, is I was literally, I had to go backwards. I mean, I probably could have worked my way around him, and I was on my way to, like, figuring that out. But I was so scared at that moment, like, not knowing if he had a weapon, not knowing if he was athletic enough to do something. I didn't want a chance trying to get around this guy. That could go back to needing more self-defense training. But in this case, I had to learn, I had to basically calibrate what I was doing while I was going in reverse. And that is something I do feel like maybe we should emphasize a little bit more, because this is the second time this has happened to me, and that's basically what it was both times, is having to keep distance going backwards. Or I could just get better about moving around the person.
Right. Well, I think self-defense is individual. It all depends on individual psyche, individual physical makeup,
right,
experiences, and everything. So
right.
Personally, I encourage people to keep a distance, no matter what. So if they're backing up and they're keeping distance, then that's what it is.
Right.
Personally, I wouldn't back up. I would stand my ground, because I know through training and the likelihood that I could, even if the guy was bigger than me, whacked out of his mind, I have a better chance of standing my ground and doing something,
right,
instead of running. So it all depends on your stature.
Right. So after I calmed down and I literally, so this is kind of what I wanted to discuss here. Once I started thinking through a lot of what happened, I'm so used to training against guys like Jeremiah's size, which this particular guy was.
But not just Jeremiah, because we have a couple guys.
You guys are all 6 foot tall.
Yeah, but I don't think people understand who's on our who other black belts are in our dojo. We have a retired highway patrolman. We have a retired a former, I think he owned a plumbing company.
Right.
And these guys, they've trained for 20, 30 years. So it's not
40 years.
40 years,
yeah.
And it's not like they're at their peak, but they've trained so long they move very quickly.
Right.
What we think is slow for them is actually in real world speed kind of fast.
And I didn't even think about that.
Right.
So when the guy tried to grab me and he couldn't hold on, I snatched my arms back really fast. I was like, that was kind of weird. If any of you guys tried to grab me, I would not have been able to get away quite that easily.
Right.
So then I realized, and I also had mentioned this to law enforcement, that he didn't bow up like he was gonna hit me or anything. I think he was gonna try to choke me the way he was choking his wife, but he wasn't making any movements to show that he was gonna do that. I don't think he really knew what he was going to do. I think he was just trying to be scary. This guy is so untrained. I was just terrified because of what had happened. So obviously his wife is untrained as well, so she couldn't defend herself. But now I'm looking back and I'm like, if that guy stood in front of me again, there's a lot of things I would do different. One of which being, I wouldn't be so afraid of the space. So we were I think I probably kept a couple of arms lengths from him. So it was probably about 3 feet, or no, sorry, not 3 feet. Probably would have been maybe about 4 or 5 feet, more than likely, trying to keep a little bit of space so that if he got too close, I just plant my foot down and shove back. I think I probably would have moved in sooner. So I probably wouldn't have gone back as much.
Right.
And I probably would have, done like we tell everybody else and go for the eyes.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say that. It's that's the best way. Even if we don't harm them and we don't intend to harm them, just running your finger across their eyes, anything to slow them down, make sure that they're focused on something other than you.
Right.
That's the ideal.
Right.
And
it was crazy because as far as we know, this guy wasn't on any kind of drugs or whatever.
Yeah, but he was definitely out of it.
Yeah, but he was so out of it that I was shoving in. I was knocking him back pretty good.
Right.
But it wasn't phasing him to where he was changing his mind.
if anybody's ever been kicked, punched hard in a joint, you know that you can't almost immediately you can't stand up. I kicked a guy in the same place you were talking about, the femur to the hip, because we were competing and he was doing blind spinning back fists. He did like 2 or 3 in a row, and the ref wouldn't call him and tell him to stop. So I decided I'd kick him.
Oh
and
yeah,
when he spun, I kicked him dead in the hip.
Yeah,
and he couldn't stand up. His leg, he was already immediately limping on it. So basically, that's a good target to hit.
Right.
But eyes have been definitely more effective.
Right.
So our jolt on, shoot on, get on kind of ideas gets us in the right part of the body. But I think we as karateka need to really fine tune what exactly we want to hit there.
Yeah.
You know, because we go jolt on, so everybody says, "Oh, it's face." It's like, no, it's the throat.
Right. Yeah, softer target.
Softer targets that you could have impact on.
Right.
So.
Well, you know, like I said about training against tall, like big karate guys is like you guys are faster. If I try to get close enough to be able to like land a punch, usually my head is in big danger. big danger. So I have to like be really on guard when I'm moving in on you guys because your timing is great. Well, this guy didn't do any of that stuff, and I'm, like I said, obviously not used to this kind of thing. So I was too afraid to move in to attack toward his head because I didn't want him to throw his hands at my face or at my throat or something. Now, granted, he could have. Definitely could have. And I was trying to be as safe as possible, but...
I heard through the grapevine that as a kid, he did do karate.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't... That. It obviously didn't manifest at all because he didn't know what he was doing. I mean, he was...
Like, this goes to show. Just goes to show.
Yeah,
you gotta train.
I said some pretty bad things about him whenever Jeremiah got there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, he's definitely not a fighter.
No.
Just a scary manipulator. But he anyway, I guess definitely going for the eyes would have been another great thing. Totally would have loved if it was like a Cobra Kai moment, and instead of having to tackle him off of her, I would have just like sidestep and roundhouse that B word right in the face. That would have been so good. But then I had no guarantee that he would have let her go.
Yeah, and you asked me what would I have done. I said I'd have knocked him out when we tackled him off. I mean, literally, because once you decide, oh, that's danger, there's no reason for you to leave an opening.
Right.
So for me, instead of just pushing him off, I would have hit him in the jaw and not try to knock him out. Right. That way, I could have got her out of the way and then subdued him, been on top of him when he came to. There's nothing he could have done. Right. And then the cops would have been called and all that. But that's because I'm a bigger dude. Right. That kind of thing. I believe what you did was great because it worked. Yeah. That's all that matters. Yeah. Bottom line, it don't matter if you could have done better or worse. Right. It worked in the moment, and that's what needs to happen. Right. Well, I'm just talking about other possibilities. Yeah, awesome. I don't in any way regret anything that we did. I honestly feel like the way that turned out was the best thing that could have happened just based on all the surrounding events and scenarios and stuff. That's honestly the best thing that could have happened. But for fun... Oh, for fun. We could have... Let's talk about what we could have done. Okay. All right. So me personally, I would have knocked him. I'd have literally hit him in the jaw. Right. In the hinge. I would have hit him so hard. He would have knocked out. Yeah. And hopefully broke his jaw. Now, I want you to think about, though, so he was really hard to reach. So he was really close to the ground. So she was completely supine on the ground. So she was laying on the ground, belly up. He was crouched down on top of her. Right. So his face was probably about a foot from the ground. So I actually had to come and shove him from the side. Yeah. You would have had to have like football kicked him in the face or something. Nah, I'd have dropped and hooked him. Because I wouldn't attack. I wouldn't be looking at attacking. I'd just swung my hand in. Oh, and you're left-handed too, and it would have been on his left side. Yeah. Yeah. So even him being low to the ground, that's just better because I just fell onto it. Right. But that's what-if scenarios, and you never know for sure. Right. So that being said, if he got up and he was chasing me or decided he was going to chase me, I wouldn't have let that. I would have entered in on him, hands up, and it would have been all soft tissue, eyes, throat, anything to kind of stun him, boxing his ears. Yeah. I didn't think about that. I could have done that. Palm heel to face is, Yeah. Anytime you want to hit the face, physics says an open palm is better than a closed fist. Right. And if you're trying to get that jarring effect, that's what you want. Right. So to me, not slapping them, but like palm healing them and stuff like that. Yeah. Definitely would have worked. Definitely. Yeah. When I went to tackle him, dude, so many things went through my head at that point. Oh my god. Because I thought I was misinterpreting. Yeah. There's a lot of other things surrounding this person that was going through my head. So
at first, I think I actually thought that I was going to tackle him and then punch him. And then when I tackled him and he was so surprised, I was just like, and I was surprised, and then I wasn't sure because he was surprised. I was like, wait, was I wrong? I don't know. So I was like thinking so fast. Right. And that's the other thing. Like I was thinking and reacting way faster than he was.
Right.
But, yeah, I was so confused by the time that happened. And then he got up and got angry, and I was like, oh, hell no.
Right.
So I shoved him. But then he was, he kind of backed off and thought that was done.
Yeah.
At that point, I guess that would have probably been the best time to just, instead of just, because it was open palms, both hands to the chest, shoved him really hard. I probably should have just lifted one hand up to the face. That probably would have been actually worked really effectively at that point. Had really good leverage. I have to say this for myself. Had awesome leverage every time I shoved this dude in the chest.
There you go.
I had a foot back, like front stance style, and like not super deep. But I had enough leverage behind me that I was knocking him like a couple feet back every time. And he probably weighs like 240, 250, and I weigh 105. Yeah. So that was pretty good. Plus the kick did knock him back a little bit too. Yeah. So I know I had to have hurt him, but he mostly acted like he was mad.
It just goes to show when someone's in a psychosis like that, either drug-induced or mentally unstable.
Right.
The whole thing that we think, oh, kick him in the knee, hurt his elbow, do these things, that it goes out the door.
Right.
It just goes out. Yeah. All that stuff is ineffective. If they're in that psychosis, they're not feeling it. They are so hyped up on drugs or adrenaline, they have no clue what's going on with their body. They're just one-track mind.
Right.
So, like Steve said, hit him in the eye, get him in the eyeball, stick him in the eyes, soft tissue stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think, that's probably the only safety regret that I have is I didn't attack him in the eyes. But like I said, so used to karate scenarios, so used to you guys with a long reach and moving quickly and being athletic. And if once I got halfway across that field and had things assessed and realized he didn't have a weapon, then I probably would have been more confident if things had gotten to that point. Yeah. Would not have been fun, but I probably could have. Right. But before that, I was just so concerned about everything going on that I didn't even
So
I was just too afraid to move in.
Let's take the scenario to where... Oh, excuse me.
We got the burps over here.
Can you hand me one of those Tums?
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's take the scenario to the end there, where before the ladies and everything are yelling and he's running off, like a little coward. Mm-hmm. Let's say he stays there.
Right.
And he's still coming after you. Mm-hmm. And your idea was to hit him in the knee and stuff like that. I would encourage you to start doing circular kind of movements where you're constantly moving around him and he's kind of trying to have to come at you.
Right.
And then from there, it's so much easier to keep him at bay than to just kind of walk back and forth because after a while, he's going to be able to cut the angles at you.
Right. So that was what I was thinking is like I was already like really tense from being scared and I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep up constantly shoving him in the chest if he was just going to keep coming at me and it obviously wasn't hurting him. So my thought was, if I hit him on the side of the knee, then I can try to move off to my left, his right, and start to work around and go at his face, or at least get behind him.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, I could have just danced around him the whole time and done a whole bunch of that and not gone for his face at all. Like I said, still was very concerned about those arms. Yeah. Really don't... my head height is his arm height. I did not want to get elbowed or punched in the face.
Absolutely.
So...
Absolutely. So it's smart. We're not trying to tell you, you should have did this or that. We're just looking at options.
I'm not.
Just looking at options. I know. And options is, you got your circle distancing.
Right.
You're cutting your angles. Let him come enough to where he goes for you, then cut off to the side. Yeah. Lateral shifts, stuff like that. Again, I'm looking at it from my perspective of being bigger.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the thing. It's this weight thing.
Yeah.
Muscular thing.
I wonder if it would have been advantageous at all since I had shoved him and I was knocking him off so much. If a follow up immediately would have made a difference. Oh, I think so. Like if I would have like stuck my back leg, shoved him, and then actually come in at him with something, either like maybe just taking that palm and just shoved it in his face at that point, maybe that would have been probably a good option. Like
you were saying earlier, you said maybe using the one palm instead of the two palms,
right?
And that second palm smacking him in the dead of the jaw. People always, you see these guys fighting, they get hit in the nose and the eye and the skull, right? Which if you're not aiming for your target, anything lands on the face, you're happy. But if you have some kind of skill and some kind of targeting, you want to hit them in the ear, the jaw where it hinges. You want to hit in certain areas, the eyes. You don't want to go dead on with them. And I think by pushing him, you'll catch that good angle. Because hopefully normally when you get pushed, you'll snap your neck back a little, even if it's just a little. It
snapped him forward, so he actually caved in every time I went.
So even better.
Right, so his head was right there. So I definitely could have timed that better and
smacked him, stuck him in the eye, or caught him in the ear.
Dude, and my nails were still long at that point before I cut him off. I could have just ripped them eyes out. Oh, that would have been so lovely. He deserves it.
Oh yeah.
Just side note, while it's on my mind, we tell our ladies for self-defense, the moment that someone tries to take your life or tries to harm you, their life is no longer more important than yours. Exactly. Okay? So me saying I would have gladly ripped his eyes out, I have zero compassion for him at all. He tried to kill his wife. He deserves to die.
He came after you.
Right.
No, it don't matter about his wife. It matters about he came after you. He crossed that line.
Right.
That's the thing. Personal safety is more important than anything else.
Yeah.
Self-preservation. Preservation.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, girl.
I survived. So did she.
Yeah.
So we're good.
Yeah. And live to fight another day.
Yeah. Yeah. The mental thing now is a little harder. It was definitely really hard at first. By the way, if you ever go through that, it's very traumatic, and you need to talk to somebody because it's not fun.
Well, any kind of violence. I mean, unless you're used to it.
Yeah. Hey, this is another thing that I thought was really interesting. So, like I said, I did start therapy. Not just because of this one event, but because of the one previously, the ex, all of the issues there. So my therapist said something really interesting. He was saying that.
Oh, by the way, he's a karateka.
He actually is a Tong Soo Do guy. He's a Sandan. So it works out. So if you need a reference to a good therapist who does stuff online, I know a martial artist who I can hook you up with. He was saying, because I have some anxiety and stuff that I still deal with, and part of that is also upbringing, because my parents are sometimes a little anxious. But he said that anxiety is essentially it's the fear of what could happen. So that was the problem with the previous relationship, is there was a lot of threat of violence, but I'm not actually afraid of violence. When violence happens, I'm like, oh no, this isn't going to happen. But the threat of violence looming and then putting up with that, that was the scary part. So then that was kind of the deal here as well. My therapist and I talked through this is the fact that he could have hurt me, or that he could have killed his wife. That is the scary part. I was trying to make sure that I didn't get hurt, and now I'm kind of living with that aftermath of there wasn't really a real physical I mean, obviously there was a physical thing happening, but we didn't actually have a physical altercation. We didn't physically fight for real, for real. So I don't actually know. I don't have the confidence in knowing what would have happened. In the law's
eyes, that's an assault. He came after you and he grabbed
let's not even talk about that, because
Terry said it.
No, I know that. No, I know it's assault.
The definition of assault, so you were in a fight.
No, I know.
Even though it wasn't one you want to be bragging about.
No, I know
you thought it was amazing.
No.
It was a fight, though.
It was, but
yeah.
I don't even want to talk about our law enforcement right now, because they're not taking this seriously. But, but yeah, the idea of knowing that he was attempting to hurt me, that there was a threat of that. He did verbally threaten me, said he was not going to let me interfere and all this crazy stuff, just yelling crazy stuff. Dude's crazy. That was kind of the scariest part. And then also the aftermath, knowing he got bailed out, so he could come after us. So there's a lot of stuff there that I'm having to deal with, because it's not likely. Yeah. But that's been part of the hardest part. Is but anyway, the point that I was gonna make is, even when we're sparring on the dojo floor, is that's the scary thing for me too, is whenever we're sparring is the threat of knowing that I could get my head taken off and not being careful enough. I don't know.
So back in the day when I first started sparring, they started teaching me how to spar in Japan. Mm-hmm. And at first I was training with the middle school kids that were about to join the high school teams. Mm-hmm. And after a while they wouldn't show up because they're in high school, right? So I have to spar my sensei. Mm-hmm. Who literally punched me in the gut and lifted me off the floor 6 inches. Mm-hmm. Beat me with a shinai almost every night. I got a hit.
That was in New York?
No, it was in Japan.
Oh, okay.
And literally, I guess since I stayed there, I didn't show him any kind of weakness. I held my ground. I kind of got over that fear of like this what's going to happen, right? That intimidation, like, oh gosh,
right?
Because what I realized was this full-grown man just hit me. He might not have hit me with everything he got, but he hit me,
right?
And it's just a hit,
right?
A punch is a punch, a kick's a kick,
yeah.
You know. And once you get that clarity of like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, and injury's an injury, you know, you accept that it's gonna suck, but your mind is clear.
Right.
You already know exactly what you're gonna do. You don't care, and that clarity is amazing.
Right.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what he was saying is like if I had that experience before, or if it had happened in the moment, I probably wouldn't be still mulling over it as much.
Right.
Is like if this guy had hit me and I would have been like, you punch like a bitch, then I wouldn't be as upset about it. It's the not knowing that's kind of the scary part. So yeah. So okay, so real quick.
No. I wanted to make a point.
Okay.
So this is what I hate about people when they say this style is better than that style, grappling's better than karate. Here's the point I'm going to make. Whatever art you choose to do, whatever art clicks in your head and makes it work, that's the art you're going to use to save your butt.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Right.
And the things we emphasize, footwork, distance, timing, targeting, it all worked.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And what I hate to hear about is like, guys, oh, I didn't take him to the ground to do this, or they didn't do this would have worked, and that would have worked. And it's like, no, it only works, self-defense works individually.
Yeah,
it's not a blanket thing. You know, your individual understanding, your individual experience of karate or violence, it kind of dictates what you do.
Right.
So for all those who are like, oh, you should have done this, and this grappling move would have worked, and this and that, and it's no, it doesn't work that way.
To me, it's cool that there are other options. That's why I wanted to have this conversation. Is like there are a lot of really cool things that I could have done that he deserved. Right. Like when I tackled him, if I had been a jiu-jitsu or judo person, that would have been lovely, actually. Yeah. But I'm not. So so then it came back to a standing fight, and we had to learn how to keep that distance. So yeah, I totally agree. Like whatever your background is, as long as you're proficient at it, then you'll know how to apply it.
Yep. And then secondly is you're not in elementary or high school anymore. Just because it doesn't look like you won the fight or you didn't beat somebody up doesn't mean you didn't hold your ground and it was successful. You know, success is not judged on how hard you hit the guy in the face or if you got a black eye or not. That's elementary school stuff. This is literally self-defense here. You made it through unscathed.
Yeah, no, I won because I'm alive.
Yeah, exactly.
And so is she.
That's the point. You know, it's like, don't get locked up in this whole idea that there's an image of winning. It's not. You're living through it. You got past that situation, and you're fine.
Like, it's really cool that one MMA chick in South America, I think, beat the crap out of that guy who tried to assault her. Like, that's fantastic. Yeah. That just wasn't me at that point in time. So
right, but that's also the mindset. My MMA people, all they train like Krav Maga guys, and all they do is fight.
Right.
And they drill things, but they spar.
They're used to that physical altercation. Yeah. Like it's nobody's business.
So they just get up in there, and that's fine. But we didn't see a picture of her either.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
We don't know what she got.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she beat the crap out of that dude.
Oh yeah.
And she probably got 1 or 2 hits, but still though.
Right.
You got to understand what she was willing to compromise.
Yeah.
And sacrifice for that.
Right.
So.
Well, definitely praying to God that this never happens to me again, because I don't want to deal with any more people who are dealing with mental health issues, who are trying to hurt people.
Amen.
But if it does happen again, third time's a charm. I'm a little more confident now. Yeah. So.
Well, I'll say this too, though. So even after my sensei in Japan, was, I would say, borderline abusive, and if some of the guys from the dojo that was there back when I was training was talking right now, they'd probably tell me you're full of shit. They were abusive.
Right.
I mean, the majority of the guys that joined karate after I did quit within 2-3 months because the shinai was out, and they would get hit in the arm and stuff. And it wasn't like he was picking on us. It was like that's how they taught. The Japanese kids just understood how to learn and what to do, and American kids didn't quite understand it.
Yeah.
So that being said. Before I left, I got jumped by 4 Japanese kids that were about to go into high school. And that experience alone completely changed my view on how a fight is fought.
Yeah.
Like, true violence really makes you go, you know what? I don't care what people say. I'm going to hit them where it hurts, and I'm going to get my job done.
Right.
And for
me... You're not trying to stand toe-to-toe with people.
Yeah. I tried to stand toe-to-toe with that one kid because I thought we were sparring. And next thing I know, when I fell, I tried to kick her, punch him. I tripped up and fell down. And next thing I knew, all 4 of them boys were kicking me in the ribs, kicking me in the face, kicking me in the, I mean, they just started kicking me. So when you get kicked and you're getting kicked and you're conscious of being kicked, right. Your mind does some crazy like shifts.
Right.
And I just shifted into survival mode. You know, my only thought was grab the guy that's kicking me and just roll into his knee. I don't care if I blow it out or not. I got to get out of there.
Yeah.
When I did that, I didn't think about what was going to happen to him. I literally knocked him to the ground and his head hit the floor. Before he could even get back up, I was already downstairs and out. So, you know, experience in violence changes your mindset.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I just, you know, bringing it back to karate, that's the thing to me that everybody has to experience to understand where their karate is and what their karate can do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because until then, you're like, I think it's this, I think it's that, or you judge it off of competition. And we all know competition is set up for a certain style of fight. Right. That's it.
Now, once again, still reiterating, the distancing thing that we make fun of in competition, that saved my butt these 2 times. Right. But, I know what you're saying.
But the distancing, that's keeping your distance to stay safe.
Yes, right.
You didn't try to fight at that distance.
No, I didn't.
You stayed safe.
Right, yeah.
When we talk about short or small distance in encounters, we're talking about the moment of interaction.
Yeah, actually
interacting with somebody. You have to be close for it to be more effective.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, what you been working on?
Working on the...
Almost a sound, not a word.
You're gonna get smacked on this podcast, okay? Wait, I can shove you like this. The end of Konkusho, the jumping sections, so the hook blocky thing, the open hand block, into the crescent kick spinny doodad, falling on the ground, and then jumping up out of that position. Yeah. So getting the timing, and it's like getting the path correct of the hand, not over-rotating, getting the timing correct from the time the hand goes around into the kick, falling on the ground, and then getting the height correct, switching from the ground up to the back stance where you're doing the lower knife hand block thing. I'm not trying to do it like they do it in tournaments. I'm trying to do it the way that I think it was more originally done. So the timing there is much quicker than it would be if you were in a tournament. Sam Young called that move the dab to the sky. Dab to the sky and then turn and jump, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm stealing that. So I am not attempting to dab to the sky before I do that crescent kick. I'm actually attempting to do a much lower block with my body upright. So anyway,
Sam,
I'm working on...
You're freaking awesome, dude. That's a great description.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's what I'm working on. What are you working on?
Application in Wonkan.
Okay.
The wedge blocks, the first 2 wedge blocks and application there. And now I'm working on the next 3 steps there. And I have to say, this is probably one of the most abstract katas that I try to figure out. Yeah. You know, not to say I figured in many katas out, just certain sections of them.
Just trying to work through it. It's like, what are you doing while you're walking like this?
Yeah. Well,
walking with your arms together for people who aren't watching.
Absolutely. So, that's what I'm working on. Yeah. And my side snap kicks are getting lighter, like snappier. Nice. That feels good. And I've been working on my strength and stretching. Yeah. Because I've obviously gotten tight. Yeah. So. Okay. That's what I've been working on. Go us.
For sure. All right. Well, we're going to hop off here. We got stuff to do, places to be, people to see, all that stuff.
We're not that important.
We are definitely that important.
We got to go to church. So, see ya.
We got to go to church. This was awesome. Leave any comments. If you're watching on YouTube, leave comments below. If you're on social media, listening or whatever, go back, leave comments. You can send us questions.
I always wanted to say this. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, and comment, please.
And click the notification bell.
Oh, absolutely.
So that you know when we put up new podcast episodes.
Because I feel fancy when I say that.
He's so fancy. Also, I'm going to be doing something pretty cool soon, I think, with my strength and conditioning for karateka. So if you are not sure if you need strength and conditioning, you probably do. Okay? So if you're not sure it's you, it's you. So anyway, go to shotokankaratehumanperformance.com or follow me on Facebook and Instagram and you'll see what's up.
I've been following her program for the karateka for the last 2 months consistently for the last month.
Yeah, strength training and stuff.
And I definitely feel, you know, my strength is better, but my conditioning, my overall like flexibility and just, you know, ability to kind of keep going, it's improved night and day. And so I'm endorsing her.
You have to.
Not because I have to, because
because you like it.
Because I like it. That's what I'm trying to say. And I know people are like, yeah, whatever. But
yeah,
if you know me, you know that I wouldn't endorse something I didn't like. I hate to say that to people.
He would just tell people that he hated it.
Yeah, so. Like, no, it's not that great.
Okay, guys. See you next time. Bye.
Bye. Sorry about the heartburn.